Thanksgiving is a unique national holiday. Each year it falls on the fourth Thursday in November. On this day, people all over the United States give thanks for the blessings of the year, just as the Pilgrims were thankful for a successful harvest over 350 years ago. But the harvest celebration was not the only day for giving thanks in the new land. Some colonists set aside special days of thanks for their safe arrival. Sea voyages from Europe were long and difficult, and those who arrived safely had good reason to offer prayers of gratitude. They also had good reason to be grateful for an abundant harvest. The Pilgrims, however, were not the first to have a harvest celebration. The origins go back to ancient times. In the Bible, Moses proclaimed the Feast of Tabernacles at harvest time. And the ancient Greeks honored Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, at the Feast of Demeter. Later, peasants living in different parts of Europe took part in many different harvest celebrations. But Harvest Home, an Old English festival, was most familiar to the American Pilgrims. This is the forerunner of our holiday. The first Thanksgiving celebration in America took place at Plymouth, Massachusetts, in 1621. When the Pilgrims arrived, they had suffered through the coldest, bitterest winter they had ever seen. Many died. Knowing the Mayflower held only enough supplies to last about a year, the settlers had to grow food to survive. They also needed homes for their families and a fort for protection. Because of the bitter cold, construction was difficult. But finally, the Pilgrims were able to build adequate shelters. Luckily, they were surrounded by friendly Indians, led by the great Massasoit, chief of the Wampanoag Indians. So it seemed that the greatest threat was starvation. At winter's end, the Indians taught the newcomers to plant corn. Through the spring and summer, the colonists planted and cared for their new crop. And when it was harvested, they were assured of enough food for the coming year. The Pilgrims had much to be thankful for, and they offered prayers of thanksgiving, grateful for surviving the life and death struggles of the first year. They planned a gay celebration. Governor Bradford invited Chief Massasoit and a few of his braves to join them. The Wampanoags were accustomed to celebrating a harvest festival called the Green Corn Dance, and they were most happy to attend. But when 90 of them arrived, the Pilgrims were quite surprised. However, the Indians had killed 5 deer for the feast. This helped feed the huge crowd, which was served at long wooden tables by the women of the colony. The menu included wild turkey and other fowl, deer, clams, eels, several kinds of fish, Indian pudding, hoe cakes, and some other special dishes. After dinner, the men took part in contests, races, and other games and athletics. The festivities lasted for 3 days. Although the little colony had survived the first winter, it was not yet free from danger. 2 years later, in the summer of 1623, there was a long drought. Week after week, the people watched their crops wither away for lack of water. Finally, Governor Bradford set aside a special day to pray for rain that might save the crop and the lives of the people. Shortly after, it began to rain, and the rain lasted for nearly 2 weeks. The crop was saved, and the Pilgrims never again faced starvation. In gratitude, they set aside a day of Thanksgiving. Now there was truly much to be thankful for. The little colony at Plymouth was becoming strong and secure. Afterwards, other colonies were established in America. As the new settlements grew and prospered, the people continued to observe Thanksgiving days. Many paid tribute to the strength and courage of the Pilgrims. They enjoyed great feasts and reunions with family and friends. So Thanksgiving was established very early in our history. But for many years, it was a strictly local celebration. Because the early years following the War for Independence were difficult ones for the young nation, George Washington proclaimed a Thanksgiving holiday. He recommended that the people give thanks for the establishment of the nation and for the new Constitution, which guaranteed the blessings of peace, order, and liberty to all. So each year, people observed Thanksgiving. Still, it was celebrated at different times in different communities. Many continued to hope there would be one official Thanksgiving Day for the entire nation. Sarah Hale, the editor of a popular magazine, was one of them. She wrote articles on the subject and sent letters to prominent people everywhere. In 1863, she appealed to President Lincoln. Lincoln agreed with the idea and proclaimed the last Thursday in November as the National Day of Thanksgiving. After this, each president issued a yearly Thanksgiving proclamation. Finally, in 1941, the Congress of the United States passed a joint resolution making the fourth Thursday in November a National Thanksgiving Day. And so on this day each year, we pause to give thanks and to count our blessings, and hopefully to reflect upon how greatly these blessings have increased since the days of the first Thanksgiving celebration in the little colony at Plymouth.